time for the final part of Assipattle and the Mester Stoorworm. Let's have a think where we left the story. It was the night before the princess was to be sent down to the rocks to be given to the Mester Stoorworm, and her father, the king, had said he was going to go down with his sword from Odin, Snickersnapper, to fight the Stoorworm. And on that very same night, in Assipattle's house, the family were all asleep. In those days, people would just sleep in one big room. The parents would have a big, what's called a big box bed, like a big cabinet bed. They would sleep in there, and the kids were all lying round about. And the mum and dad were actually still awake, and they were talking about going to watch, because in those days when things like that happened, like people being punished and whatever in public, everyone would go to watch. It sounds kind of weird now, right? But people would go to watch this. So it was expected that everybody would go down to the shore the next day to watch the princess being given to the Stoorworm. Sounds unusual now, but in those times that's what happened. And the farmer's wife was saying, I don't think I'll go, you know, my hip's hurting me and it's a long way and I'm not really going to go. And he said, no, we'll go on the horse. Yeah, but your old horse, it's only when you ride him that he goes fast. If I ride him, he just goes along slowly. And he said, but I never told you my secret. And she's like, a secret? What kind of secret? Well, if I want him to stand still, I just pat him on one side of the neck. If I want him to run along like a regular horse, I pat him 2 times on the other side of the neck. But if I want him to run like the wind, I take out this little whistle. And he had like a small whistle that was made out of bone. And when I blow through it, the horse will run like the wind. And he put the whistle down beside his bed, and they fell asleep. And Assipattle, he heard all this, and he knew then what he was going to do. So it was early morning, the sun was just starting to come up, and Assipattle crept out of his bed and put on his clothes. Sneaked across to beside his parents' bed, and he reached up and he took the little bone whistle, put it in his pocket, and he opened the door, closed it, went outside to the stable, and there was his father's horse, and he got on the horse, and the horse made a noise when he got on it, like, it was neighing and making a noise. And at this, everybody woke up. Someone's stealing the horse, someone's stealing the horse, what's happening? They opened the door and they all rushed outside, and they just saw Assipattle heading off on the horse, but they didn't recognise it was him. Stop, thief, thief, stop, stop. And the horse stopped. And Assipattle was, come on, let's go, let's go. The horse wasn't going. And then he remembered, he patted it twice on one side of the head and it started to go along like a normal horse. Meanwhile, the family were all running after, and they were going to catch him quite easily, probably. And then he remembered, hang on. He blew through the bone whistle. The horse went off like the wind, leaving them far behind. Off and off he rode, and he got to the cliff top, and he looked down. There it was, the Mester Stoorworm lying in the water with its huge mouth closed and its giant yellow eyes. And there at the shoreline was a small boat, he could see it from the top of the cliff, and one guy standing there, a guard, standing there with like one of those things called a pike. It's like a long stick with a spear on the end, like a thing, like a big spear. And he was standing with this thing, and Assipattle knew what he had to do. He took his horse into the woods, and there he found this small cabin. And this cabin was an old lady who lived there. Okay, I think she was I think she sold like eggs. She had people would go to her to get eggs from her. And he went up and he knocked on the door. There was nobody there. He opened the door. He went in, and in the corner he saw this big metal pot. He thought, that will do, I need a metal pot like that. So he took the metal pot, had like a handle on top, like a cauldron. And then he looked around and he saw that the old lady had a fire burning with coal, and the coals were glowing red hot. And he very carefully, with what's called tongs, it's like two metal sticks, he managed to pick out one of the really, really hot coals, and he took it across and he put it into the pot. And he went back on his horse and he rode to the edge of the beach. And he got off and he was walking along, swinging his pot, and he walked right up to the guard who was at the boat. And the guard turned round. "Aye, what do you want?" "Well," said Assipattle, "I was just thinking it must be cold standing there the whole time, just standing like this, not moving about. How about I guard the boat for a little while, and you can come onto the beach and run around and get warm by, jogging up and down." "Aye, right, you think I'm going to do that?" said the guard. "And then you take the boat, and then the king comes down here and I'm standing alone with no boat. What do you think's going to happen to me then? There's no way I'll be coming on the land and letting you stand beside the boat." Assipattle looked at him and said, "Well, okay, it's up to you. But I'll just stay here and I'm going to look for some mussels and cockles and shellfish to make some breakfast. Because there's lots of things you can eat living and growing on the beach." And Assipattle started digging around in the sand, digging and digging and digging, and all of a sudden he looked, "Gold! Gold! There's gold down here!" And he started digging more and more furiously. And the guard who was standing was like, "What?" And he wanted to go away, but then he thought, "Oh, I've got to stand here beside the boat." And then he wanted to go away, then, "Oh, I need to stand beside the boat." Then he couldn't help it. He ran over, he threw down his pike. "Gold, gold, where's the gold? It's in here, it's in here." He started digging and digging and digging, and he dug down and dug down, and all he was finding was more and more sand and worms and shells and things like that. "Go!" And then he realised, oh, there's no gold, is there? And when he turned round, there was Assipattle on the boat, bye, waving to him and setting out towards the Mester Stoorworm on the king's boat.